Well, all kinds of things happen on the Chester River, so it really is kind of the central artery of this community in terms of economy, ecology, aesthetics, culture, everything.
You were founded as a port of entry in 1706.
The Chester River is one of the last remaining rivers that is very well preserved in terms of what it may have looked like in the 18th century. We built this vessel, the schooner Sultana, and launched it right here on the Chester River to get students of all ages out on the water and teach them about the history and ecology of the region in a manner that's fun, exciting, and hands-on. So it's really almost like going in a time machine, and the river is really kind of central to everything that we do.
So this year we want to focus on the climate crisis. Well, a day in the life of a riverkeeper is always different. Most days we come in with a plan of what we're going to work on, and that can range from pursuing enforcement issues, regulatory issues, advocacy, water quality monitoring, and science. The biggest threats to the Chester River are nutrient pollution and sediment pollution, and that leads to algal blooms, which leads to deoxygenated dead zones and a host of different problems. And most of that pollution comes from agriculture in the Chester River. Shore Rivers has made a really strong effort to work alongside of our farmers and work with our agricultural community because they use this river too, and most of the farmers care about the environment.
The cover crop is what we do to take up nutrients that may not have been taken up by the corn plant that would have otherwise leached or run off. What we're learning is that as we increase the diversity of the cover crops, we're building diversity in the soil, but also diversity in the ecological system around us. Out here we've got about 9 different plants. We've got clover, vetch, turnips, radishes, cereal rye, wheat. There's a little edible turnip. So the more photosynthesis that occurs on your field, the longer the plants are growing, the more long-term it is. We're actually sequestering carbon into the soil, which helps solve climate change. Look at that.
We're working hard to reduce all sources of pollution, and that includes, we'll say, urban runoff.
When it rains here, there's literally like a class 5 rapid going down the curbs, heading right down High Street. And the problem with that for the river is that can just kind of overwhelm the water quality in that area where that's dumping in. And because it's bringing things like oil on the pavement or garbage, but also it's generally the pavement is hotter than any other surrounding area. So it can really inject warm, like poorly oxygenated water into the system. And that can really quickly degrade the water quality wherever that runoff is entering the Chester. And in our case, it's right along the edge of the town.
And then this is also a public space that's used a lot for festivals, for Downrigging Weekend, the Tea Party Festival in the spring. So, we don't have a lot of room to do things to put a huge stormwater treatment area. So that's why we really want to look at a strategy of putting smaller facilities all the way up the hill to help treat that water slowly, as opposed to one big facility down right here in this area. The other thing we have going on right here is you can see there's a line of mulch and debris right here. And it got here because it floated up on the tide. This area used to flood maybe a few times a year with tidal flooding. And now it floods multiple times per week. So that's something that we're thinking more and more about, how we can address the climate crisis and the rising tides here in the Eastern Shore. Yay! So this is Rosin Creek here. I grew up here. Both my parents grew up here in Chestertown. The kids that I'm raising are actually going to be the 4th generation Crumbauers here in Chestertown. It's beautiful right now, but every summer we get a pretty significant algal bloom fueled by nutrient pollution. And when that happens, we see Lucy has been fishing here today. She can't fish, I can't fish, can't kayak or paddleboard or anything like that because of the algal bloom. So that's one of the reasons why I'm a riverkeeper, because I feel so passionate about changing that situation. On the positive side, we've seen the return of grass beds. My dad grew up just on the other side of the Chester River Bridge here, and he tells stories when he was growing up. To get out their boat to the channel, there was so much grass they'd have to drag a box spring to create a clearing through so they could get in and out. And when I was a kid, there was no grass anywhere. Just in the past 4 or 5 years, we've seen that really start to rebound. Improving water quality is one reason that's happening.
In Chestertown, we did a big sewage plant upgrade. I know we've had a focus in the rural areas on septic upgrades.
But also, the Department of Natural Resources, some volunteers, and Shore Rivers have been working hard to plant grasses as well. The Chester is traditionally known as a very muddy river, but where those grass beds are in those areas, the water's become much clearer. So water clarity is about 1.5 feet right here, and it was a lot higher than this before we had the rain over the past couple days. So rain really impacts our water clarity here because we have more sediment that gets washed into the river when it rains. We actually had probably the best view when we bought this property because it was just wide open. But to me, it's so much more important to have that buffer that protects our waterways. You can see all the things that we've done. We've enhanced our buffer, planted trees, converted a lot of our turf grass to meadow, which all helps absorb those nutrients and hold sediment in place. We have not put down a single ounce of fertilizer anywhere in this property. Nutrient pollution makes your grass green. It's what makes our creek green too. And I really hope more people will start to kind of adopt that aesthetic and create more buffers on their waterfront properties. My vision for the Chester River is to have a clean, healthy river that's swimmable, fishable,
Nice and healthy, grass everywhere.
and can be enjoyed by the entire community. You know, we're getting there. The data shows in the past decade or so that water quality has been slowly improving. So we're headed in the right direction. It's a lot of work to do, but we are making progress, which is encouraging.